I want to finish what I was saying about video games. I was telling my life in video games, and I got so interested in what David French was saying that I stopped. I went over time, and I didn't have a chance to finish up. And I had just been talking about the 90s, which I thought were the first golden age of video games. Art forms usually have a golden age right at the beginning, and then they have good examples of the breed and bad examples of the breed. And then they usually have a second golden age toward the end where you get the kind of cynical version. So if you see you see TV, it had this golden age of Playhouse 90, live drama on TV, Rod Serling doing The Twilight Zone. And then it went into this kind of wasteland phase. And then it came back with a kind of darker, more cynical view of The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and The Shield and all those programs. But they were great shows. Movies, kind of the same thing. You had the wonderful golden age in the 1930s and 40s. Where they were making kind of smiley-faced all-American films. They went into the 50s, it got a little darker, and then you had this resurgence in the 70s when you had guys like Steven Spielberg and Scorsese and Coppola making this kind of darker, deeper, richer versions of the old films than that you had before. The video games in the 90s, they just had some of the wonderful, wonderful games, and they started to experiment with how far they could go with telling a story and playing a game. And in my opinion, they hit a wall. There is a point at which the telling of a story gets in the way of playing a game, and the playing of a game gets in the way of telling a story. That is why Super Mario is still such a great game. No story. Princess is kidnapped. It's all about being this immersive visual experience of being in this wonderful, crazy world. And I think that this has been a problem in these latest days of video games. It's been a problem for me, at least, that even though some of these games are very good, they are restrained by the technique of playing a game. And that's why you never see any good movies made of video games, because video games are essentially linear. You run, you fight, you move, you fight, you climb a wall, you fight. And that doesn't make for very good movie storytelling, which should have kind of interweaving narratives, or if it has one narrative that should have a lot of twists. And that's why I'm always getting letters by video game lovers. Have you played The Last of Us? Have you played Red Dead Redemption? And I've started a lot of these games, and I've liked them and admired them for the skill with which they were done. But they were nothing new to me. It was just an interesting story between the shooting, and there was no new way to play the game. My favorite games now are indie puzzle games like Braid and Limbo and Inside, where the thing moves across a linear plane, but the story is kind of almost esoteric. It's almost like a mind story, like a dream, and they have these wonderful puzzles that you have to solve that engage your mind. The one thing I will say about this is you have to understand that my attitude toward art is different than most people's attitudes. Art is like sex. It's a pleasure, but pleasure is not the point, right? Pleasure is why we do it, but pleasure is not the purpose. And I feel art is the same way. Art is a delight. Art is fun. Art is, interesting. Art is engaging. Art takes you out of the world and adds to your experience. But art has a purpose, which is to record and transmit the inner human experience, which I feel is the heart of everything we are and everything we do. When you experience a good work of art, whether it is entering a world visually as you do in a video game, looking at a world and entering it visually as you do with a painting or sometimes a movie, or whether it's telling a story of people's interactions, whether it's telling a story that has a political angle to it, when you have that experience and you release yourself into that experience, it adds to your experience of life and therefore adds to your wisdom. That's why I don't necessarily hit at a work of art because of what it's saying, quote unquote, because it says maybe I don't like the attitude behind a movie like Get Out. And if I talked to the guy, I would argue with him. But in the movie, I'm brought into the experience of the fear of assimilation in that movie, Get Out. And I love that because it gives me like another life. It gives me an hour and a half of another life, which makes me wiser. It makes me deeper. It makes my life richer. Video games can do that, just like any other art form when they reach the level of art, as they do with some of the 90s games and even some of the games today like Braid. They take you into a world and they expand your mind and they expand the way you think about things. And they're a delight. What else can you ask for? I think that is a brilliant, brilliant thing. And by the way, all American arts hit their peak before the intellectuals find them. And video games have now been discovered by intellectuals, so you're going to be fighting for your life to keep the leftists from destroying them. Good luck, because I love them and I don't want to see them destroyed. That's it. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show.